What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another dope edition of Define Your Legacy. I'm your host, Theus Elijah McBee. Okay, and before we tap into today's episode, just want to shout out the online store of Define Your Legacy, which can be found at the link in the description of this episode. All right, but to jump right into today's episode, we have Jasmin on the show. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. But if you could, right, just introduce yourself. Let the people know who you are and the value that you provide.
So, my name is Jasmine Cameron. I am owner of Honey Nail and Beauty Studio located in Hamden, Connecticut. I've been doing nails for about 8 years now, and I just opened this year in April of 2022. And I'm just here to provide valuable quality services for all clients of all different races and backgrounds, um, and really give them like a safe space to practice their self-care.
Mm. And so you mentioned you've been doing this for 8 years now, and now you have right your place of your own, right? So how did you get started? Right, I know that I'm sure that was a long journey and a long process, but let's start from the beginning, right? How did you get started?
So I got started, I will say 8 years ago when I graduated college or was graduating college. I went to nail school at the same time because I was going to Southern and it wasn't creative enough for me. So, a little bit about my academic background. I graduated from Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in 2011. And then I went to a fashion school in New York for a semester. And then I ended up getting my bachelor's at Southern. So, when I was going to get my bachelor's, it wasn't really like creative enough for me. It wasn't challenging my artistic skills. So I got my nail certificate at the time. But because I have the fashion and beauty background, I always wanted to be like in the industry still. So I pursued those things. Like I interned at Ebony Magazine. I interned at other magazines in LA and a PR firm in LA just to see how things were done and really to network because everybody's like network, but in the faster paced industries and in the cities, like you need to um, really like connect with almost anybody that you meet because you just never know what they're doing or who they know. So it was funny because once I was like visiting LA and my friend was modeling at the time, and I was talking to the makeup artist, and I was like, "Yeah, I do nails back home, and I'm trying to do it for photo shoots and stuff like that." And she's like, "Oh, I know someone who like has an agent and does it out here in LA." She was like, "I'll give you her contact." I reached out to her and I told her I was from the East Coast. She's like, I know someone in New York. And I reached out to the person in New York. And then that's how I started volunteering my time on fashion shows. Um, so, after that, like definitely takes time because it's not like I just got here and boom, but you just have to keep putting yourself out there and working towards your goal. A lot of the times it's for free, but it's for experience, exposure, and I got my degrees and I was trying to do things with that. And then nobody was calling me back because I didn't have experience. But when it came to nails, everybody was calling me back. And it's just because it's a trade. So it's something that you can easily learn. And since the nail response was way bigger, I was like, okay, maybe it's a sign that I'm supposed to be working on my craft because if you worked corporate, then I wouldn't have time to pursue my craft and my artistry. And I remember even considering like moving back to LA because I remember, I was like, I gotta leave Connecticut. Like, there's nothing here for me. And at the time when I was trying to make that decision, someone in New York actually reached out to me and was like, and I worked with her during Fashion Week as well. And she's like, hey, I know you want to get your license in New York. Do you want to work with me? And she was a celebrity manicurist. So I was like, me? Of course. Like, yes. And then I was like, I don't have to move to California now. So, there was a lot of trials and tribulations even with that experience, but it helped catapult me further into the direction of where I wanted to go. And I mean, I was still working part time. Like I was working at different salons and spas in Connecticut. I was working for myself. I was doing the freelance. So I was doing a lot. Like it was crazy how much I was doing. And then I just got to a point where I had this overwhelming response of clients, especially through the pandemic when they had to support Black business and people were looking for Black nail techs. And I was like, okay, how can I still maintain my brand and my business and still do everything I want to do? And the only way for me I saw was to build a home base, like have a foundation, have something that's mine here in Connecticut. So this way, if I wanted to, I can still move around or I can still work in different places. And 2020 is when I was like, okay, it's time to look for a space. And 2021, I signed my lease, and then 2022, I moved in.
There you go. So what does that mean to you too? I know towards the end of that story, you mentioned the idea of having something of your own, right? So what does it mean to you to have something that truly belongs to you?
Well, it means a lot, and for multiple reasons. So, one, being a Black woman, and I have to realize like it's so ingrained in our culture to feel like we're left behind or we get the short end of the stick or we don't have the same equality and opportunity as others. So for me, I wanted to show people that it doesn't matter how much someone gives you, you still can go out and get it on your own. There's always going to be barriers to break down, but if you're confident and sure of yourself, you can still get far. Like there's still so much opportunity and room for us. Um, and then with my family background, I'm half immigrant, so my half of my family is Jamaican, and coming to the United States as immigrants, they're working for people to make a living for their family. So I think I wanted to really be that person who could kind of change the dynamic where it's not like we're just here always working for the person. Like we could make our own way and work for ourselves and build that equity and those, investments and generational wealth, as they say.
Mm. But was there ever a shift in your own personal mindset? When you talk about seeing your parents work as to now making that transition for yourself to now being a business owner, was there ever something that happened or a moment that made you say that, all right, you know what, I can do something else, or in addition to my other aspirations?
Um, the shift was, I would say for me, um, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like disappointment or like there was a moment where I knew like this is who I am. And there's not many other things that someone that has what I have can do. Like as an artist, I have to express my creativity. Um, so I guess the shift was really like, um, what is it called when you don't get the rejection?
Oh,
Like I wasn't getting the jobs that I was applying for. I just wanted to work in the industry. And at the time, like I didn't even really know what I wanted to do in the industry. I just knew what industry I wanted to be in. So I think the rejection aspect made me uncomfortable enough to figure out where I fit.
mm,
And it was like, I'm an artist. Like I remember telling my dad, like, I'm an artist, because he didn't have the opportunity to get his degree. So he gave me that opportunity, and then it was like, so what you gonna do with this degree? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like we're gonna use the degree definitely, but sometimes that doesn't look like just a desk job or a corporate job or the stereotypical 9 to 5. Sometimes it looks a little different. So I would say the shift very well came around the time where I was like down and out, like I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know this is who I am, so I have to figure it out.
mm. And that's cool too, because I think that's a story that a lot of people can relate to. Is like if you get told no so many times, or you get rejected from either applying to so many jobs so many times, it's like, all right, eventually, maybe that's a sign, right? Not a sign
Right.
that's a bad thing or you're doing something wrong, but maybe you just might need to start doing something else because at the end of the day, everyone else may be able to tell you no, but you can't really tell yourself no, if that makes sense, right? Like
Right.
I feel like when you're
Right.
starting something, you're really the one that decides. But have you learned any lessons though in that, and being a business owner? Because again, it sounds great, right? To know that
Yeah.
you're in charge. But like you mentioned, it's been an 8-year journey and process for you. So have you learned any lessons that you feel like have stuck out over the course of this time?
Yes. The biggest lesson I've learned, I think someone recently asked me this too, like, what was your biggest learning experience? And I was like, oh shoot, I'm gonna be interviewed soon. Like, let me remember this answer. But honestly, overall, it is to listen to your intuition and follow what is inside you to do. Because what's inside you to do is not for everybody, it is your gift. So, we get tried, we'll get tried, and people will try us, and things will try us, and things won't go our way, or we think the timing of things don't go our way. Because I fought with that as well. Like, oh my gosh, I know I can do it. Why is it not happening for me? You know, it literally will come. It literally will come. If it's for you and it's meant to be, it will align with you at the right time. Um, and for me too, it's hard to sometimes explain, everybody has their story and people come to their moments of realization at different times. And for some people, it doesn't come for a long time. Some people don't feel passionate about things, but I also, like, I'm a spiritual person. So I feel like when you're connected spiritually, you know, there's a deeper understanding of like life and, people and time and universe and the things that's happening collectively in your favor if you're open to it and you're allowing it. So for me, it wasn't something that I had to try hard at. Like I was already a self-starter. I was already motivated. I was already inspired. Um, I was already a hard worker. I was already hungry. Like I was already just very passionate about what I liked and what I wanted for myself. So it was like I just did it because that's what I knew that I needed to do to get where I needed to go. Um, so I mean, there's a learning experience, yes, in opening my own business. I've never done that before, and I had to find the right people. And sometimes you think you found a person, but they're not available, or they don't want to do it, or and then you have to find somebody else, and you kind of have to trust in your team of people to get these things done for you. But at the end of the day, you got to be that person to be like to vouch for yourself. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing, don't drop the ball on me, because if you do, I'm gonna find somebody else to pick my ball up.
Mm.
But again, those things weren't hard for me because that's how I am. Like I have a goal in mind, and I'm just gonna keep going until it's executed. So, I mean, there are many lessons, but again, something I didn't have to try hard at. But be smart with your money. I think so many of us don't think about that because we think we're young and who cares and we have all this time. And I realize where I'm at 31, I was able to open up a business primarily on my own funds,
Mm.
and, not have to rely on a loan for my business. Um, and again, it wasn't something like I never said to myself, I'm aiming to save this much to open up a business by now. I just was like saving my money and making my money. And I just was like, oh shoot, I got enough money, I think, to open up a business. Like it's looking kind of good for me. And I had a good credit score. And so, if you're being responsible for yourself, it doesn't matter if you have kids or not. I feel like I don't have kids, but I feel like life happens and people obtain these things that, make it a little harder for them. But again, it's doable. And, you just have to kind of be accountable and smart in those ways.
Mm. I agree. I completely agree. Talk to me too, though, about taking that jump, if you will, or that leap of faith when you realize either you had enough money to really go all in and start your own business. And I asked that, the studio and everything like that, and I asked that too because that in itself is an investment, right? Like just the idea,
Yeah,
pouring into you first, right, as
right.
opposed to anything or anyone else. So, what did that mean to you to know that, like, all right, here's what I have. I'm going to use this on myself and the brand and the business
Um,
overall.
so I guess it came from the timing of where I was in my life. It was a pandemic, and when the pandemic hit, we all had plenty enough time to reflect on where we were, where we came from, and where we wanted to go. And for me, I didn't have like a family. I didn't have kids or anything like that. And I didn't have a house or, anything that was really an investment for me. So I was like, okay, either I have to move out or I have to get a business pretty much. And the business thing was already on my mind. It was something that was already going to come. It just was like the right timing for me to really sit down in my thought and think it through and have the time to even look. So when when that time happened, I was like, what am I going to do for myself? How am I going to leave my mark? How am I going to build a foundation? And I'm also a type of person who likes challenge. So it was like, okay, everything has been flying by smoothly. Of course, yes, you have your moments where, again, like I said, things try you, you have your trials and tribulations. But I was like, for the most part, it never wavered my success or my growth. I was always continuously growing. So I was like, okay, what's going to be the next big thing that I do to challenge myself? And it was like, okay, well, I have shelter.
Mm.
I'm living at home. Nothing's wrong with my living situation. I need a business because when I go back to work, I don't have enough hands to service these people. I have two hands, and I already know I'm going to be tired. So, and I also, I forgot who I was listening to. I don't know if it was church or something, but I always remembered, or maybe it was like Shark Tank, the guy from Shark Tank. I can't remember, but I always remember someone saying, like, it's such a big gift to give somebody employment for them to like take care of their livelihood.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, like it's I'm already blessed to gift people and making them feel good. But to take it that next step to hire people so they can provide livelihood for themselves and their family, like that's even a bigger gift. So I think my whole thing was I just wanted to challenge myself. How can I be a better person to share my gifts with others?
Mm. Mm. And how would you say you've been able to answer that?
Well, now I have two lovely nail techs working under me that um, I'm sorry, my iPad
There you go.
keeps keeps telling me that it wants to die. Um, so I have two lovely nail techs who's working under me, and they're like inspired and motivated by me, and it just it's like it tells me and reminds me of where I'm supposed to be. Like I'm in the right place.
Mm. Mm. And I think what's very unique about that, and also something that should be taken note of is just the idea that like you did it your way. That makes sense, right? Like you did it,
Yes.
and like it wasn't forced or anything like that. You did it your way. So how does that feel too? To know that you went about things your way. You didn't try to copy or whatever someone else's.
Um, and that's also a gift because that just means that I'm doing for me, like God's work. Like to me, God puts things in you, and it just and I think that's another way I know that I'm in alignment with where I was supposed to be, because I've had ideas and thoughts about having like a salon when I was younger. I don't know why, but that was just like something that I thought about. And then I just think the creative nature of being in like these type of industries already kind of set yourself up for entrepreneurship. So it just started to all like make sense. Like I was like, I'm literally able to make my own schedule and nobody can tell me when I could do something or what I can do or and then even to like work in the fashion industry, work in the entertainment industry. I mean, I've been able to cross over to celebrities and I remember my mom saying, "Oh yeah, like you're gonna be doing celebrities." I was like, yeah, that's not my goal.
Mm.
And then I ended up doing celebrities and I was able to like be on set for like movies or, it's just like a different world. So, and then come back to my salon and I'm talking to my clients that I see weekly that I love so much because now we just have these deep bonds and we know each other's personal business. So it's like I wouldn't trade one for the other.
Mm. Was there any celebrity that got you starstruck at all?
That I've done.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, no.
Mm.
And I'm saying no because when it comes to like celebrities, they're doing work just like you're doing work. And your goal is to just do your job, do it the best of your capability, and leave a good impression. So you don't really have time, for me, I would say, to be starstruck.
Mm.
Like it's like make sure you got all the stuff you need, make sure you're there on time, make sure you're giving them what they want, and make sure you're respectful of their space. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't say, I think at this point, not to say I don't admire them because I do, but like I kind of said earlier with you, I've done radio when I was in college, and I loved radio because I loved doing the interviewing. Like I love to see how people got to where they got, what inspired them, what was their trials and tribulations. And I think one of my goals when I was in college in LA, actually, I remember interviewing Celicia Stower. She was like on America's Next Top Model. And that kind of was like my first experience trying to interview like a celebrity at the time or someone who kind of was in the industry. Um, so now it's like I'm able to service them, but also not interview, but also like just have dialogue
Right.
to share that experience. Like, and I think that's like the lesson for me is like, I'm inspired by them, but then when you hear their story, like 9 times out of 10, or at least the clients that I've done, they're coming from humble beginnings
Mm.
as well. And it all comes down to like working hard, but just going for what you want and like not wavering that. Um, like the last celebrity I've done, I do Ashanti the majority of the time, but the last client I've done for the first time was Anderson Pack from Silk Sonic.
Mm.
And honestly, I didn't even know who he was. And he's out here winning all these Grammys and stuff. So I just kind of went into it like, all right, I'm about to just bang out these nails and these feet and let him get on about his day. And we ended up having a great conversation. And it's humble beginnings. It's like you start just being a child in a small town and having a passion for music and connecting with the right people, and then you just keep going and elevating. And the Anderson Pack that everybody sees is not really like who he is behind closed doors. So that's also another thing is I think we over fantasize celebrities when at the same time it's like they're human. They need to shed that exterior that they have on for everybody else. Like I couldn't be a celebrity. I know that's just not for me. I like to be behind the scenes. So I think now, the person that I am, like, I just want to see, like, who are you behind that exterior?
I feel like you're also in a space too, right, where there's a little bit more of a stronger, possibly one-on-one connection. Would you say that's the case when you're working with certain clients at all? And I don't just mean like in celebrities, at this point, just mean like in general.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
And that keeps me in love with my job too.
mm,
Um, because it's like people literally like look forward to talking to me and I look forward to talking to them, and it's like, how they say, when you're in school, it's one thing, and then they always say like real life is like the real teacher. And it's like there's just something about talking to a person about their everyday life. And it could be something as simple as what grocery store they go to and what pair they like to eat. Like you just learn so many different things that I would I wouldn't have learned if I'm not talking to different people every day.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And I mean that's perfect too. It's like you can learn a lot literally just by talking to people.
Hmm.
Like, of course, social media and podcasts and all that, but talking to people can really, really go a long way.
Yeah,
But also too, because I mean, in that type of space, do you feel like you've interacted with people with a lot of different backgrounds? And if so, do you think that's helped you along the way?
absolutely. Um, I've also lived in different places too. So I'm from Connecticut, but I've lived in Washington State, and I was born in New York, so I have a lot of family from New York. Um, but I think culturally, Connecticut can be very closed off, within our social groups. So when I went to Washington State, it was like a rude awakening,
Mm,
and it was culture shock for me. Um, and I had to adjust. Like I had to survive. I had to adjust. And I think then I hated and dreaded that experience just because I was like stripped away from my comfort zone. But I think one of the biggest lessons too with kind of expanding and doing your own thing is like you have to get out your comfort zone. Like you got to welcome that challenge of being uncomfortable. So I think having a well rounded life experience of meeting people from different backgrounds and talking to people from different backgrounds also gave me leverage to be able to service people from different backgrounds
mm.
as well.
And you hit something around the head too, like the challenge of being uncomfortable. Do you feel like being uncomfortable can sometimes be a good thing?
Yeah, I do. You don't grow in comfort and you don't see anything wrong um, sometimes when you're comfortable. Not to say that comfort obviously does lead to happiness and things like that, but um, there's levels to being comfortable. And sometimes I think when we're stretched or impacted in a way that shifts the comfort, we are easily scared and we run back versus trying to get through it and running forward.
Mm, mm,
So I definitely had to do that with even this experience, because again, like I said, if I wasn't manning and leading the ship to get where I wanted to go, I could have easily been like, this is too much for me. Never mind. I can't find a contractor, and the property manager is saying this, and the rent is that. Like I could have easily been like, never mind. But I think the bigger goal was like, nah, you gotta get there. So keep moving forward.
So, how would you say too, right? Someone could actually get started into the nail industry as a whole, right? Um, what would your kind of suggestions be, or what would you say to someone else that may be looking to get started?
I will say go to school,
Mm,
because I'm one of those people who do things by the book because I don't want to be limited down the line. So, um, definitely go to school, because also in my journey, when I got my certification in Connecticut, it was not comparable to another state.
Mm.
And the majority of states required licensing, whereas we didn't require. I think Delaware and Connecticut were the last two states that did not require licensing. So when I wanted to move out of Connecticut or work in these other states, I could not get jobs doing nails in those other states. So it limited me because at the time I was like, I know I can do it and I'm trying to gain more experience and exposure, and this is my ticket out and I can't do it. I could freelance, thankfully, on the shoots and stuff, but I couldn't like work in a salon. So I always say go to school because you need to learn about nail care, health, your nail health, um, the diseases and the really like all the technical stuff, as well as the fun stuff. I mean, I think a lot of people see the fun stuff. I saw the fun stuff, but at the same time, I was like, I'm going to school because I know there's things that I don't know about the nail industry. So, and it's not, when you're going to school, it's not like you're going to learn everything you need to know to get you where I'm at. But it's like a prerequisite, like you build on that. So I say definitely go to school and practice. I mean, now knowledge is everywhere. So, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, there's so much knowledge to be learned. So those would be my tips.
Hmm. But what kind of what school would you like? What's the I'm not
So now Connecticut does require licensing. So there's different schools, but I would just say go to an accredited school. And if you don't want to do like the full cosmetology program, because nails did, I don't know if they still do fall under the umbrella of cosmetology.
hmm,
So, but cosmetology is majority hair. And for me, I had an interest in cosmetology because at the time I didn't know what my niche was. Like I didn't know nails were my thing. So I was going to do cosmetology, but I'm glad that I didn't. And that at the time there was a nail program. It was in a cosmetology school, but there was a nail program specific to nails. So I did not have to spend over $20,000 to learn about nails.
hmm,
So I would say, there's Paul Mitchell, I think, who might do it, but there's also like Branford Academy. The school I went to is no longer open. So there's different schools, different places, but I would make sure that it's accredited.
hmm. Right. Well, yes, yeah, of course, of course. And even after, completing the program, what's I guess what would the next step be? Um, like,
The next step would be looking for a job.
hmm,
So applying to, a business that fits you. Like there's so many different places. Like I worked at salons and spas. I worked at a hotel spa. I worked mainly at hair salons that did nails as well because I just like being versatile and learning about other things. But then there's people who just want to work at a nail salon because to them that's like the I guess the thing to do. Like if I do nails, I might as well work at a nail salon. But I will also say that that's the switch that I am turning,
hmm,
because when you work at nail salons, the majority of nail salons are Asian run. So you don't feel like you're getting the knowledge and support that you would get if you were in a different environment. Not to say that those environments are not suitable, but it might not be a good fit for you. It wasn't a good fit for me, like even to go get my nails done all the time, because I just think the level of quality is not there. I mean, they kind of tend to want to get you in and out. It's not really about unique, intimate experiences, which I wanted to give to my clients. And I think that also comes from me working at a spa. Like you come in here to relax, so we're going to relax together kind of thing. Um, so I would just say find places that suit you. And it took me maybe like 6 to 8 places before I started working for myself. And all those places kind of forcing me to be like, you could do this on your own. You could do this on your own. So I think some people give up because they're like, the owner is nasty, or no one's nice to me, or, you know, the pace is too fast, or the quality is not great. There's somewhere else that will be what you need it to be.
Mm. And so what does it mean to you to know that yours is Black owned?
Um, so I think in this cultural shift that we're in again, which is not new, but it's repeating. I think, you know, I think sometimes it means more to other people than it means to me. Because when you're in it, you don't feel it as much as somebody else will feel the impact. It's like I'm just steady doing what I have to do. And I just happen to be Black and happen to love nails. But I think the test will really be how sustainable am I? Because anybody can open up a business. We see it all the time. And for whatever reason, a lot of our people open businesses and they fold within 2 years, which I don't foresee seeing or happening for me. But, you know, it's almost kind of like, not to toot my own horn, but it's kind of like, this ain't hard. It's a lot of work, but it's not hard. So I just want to kind of like, you know, really get it to a place that I'm content. It's never going to be at a place where I'm done, but where I'm just like, you know, okay, I'm good. Like I put my time in, my girls are good. Cause this is another thing is when you have people working for you, it's very important that they're good too. It's not just about you. You know, and because of society putting so much pressure on Black businesses, I think the test will really be when I have more years in, you know, but I think the bigger impact is me being just a young girl with a dream coming from the background that I come from, not seeing business owners up close and personal in my own personal family dynamic.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I always felt that like a huge part of financial literacy, in my personal opinion, is exposure, right? I think us as young Black individuals, it's important for us to see ourselves in that light of being successful, right? Because naturally, when you turn the television, that's not always how we're portrayed. So if anything, I think it's actually important for people that look like us to show off the success because someone else out there may need to see, right, that it's actually a reality to do it.
Right.
But even in saying that, right, you mentioned the idea of statistically speaking, right, just straight off numbers, the idea of certain Black businesses not necessarily having the sustainability the way we might want. But in your honest opinion, what are some things that you may try and do to prevent that from happening to yours?
Definitely. So one thing that I have is a financial advisor and an accountant, of course. You need to have those. You need to have somebody who's, you know, doing your checks and balances, even if you can't forget or whatever the case may be, because those people will hold you accountable or tell you, look, this is what's happening. This is where you need to be. So that's definitely valuable. But I think, you know, paying attention to the details of your business and also, like you said, exposing yourself, but doing your research. So, you know, it's hard. The thing for me is time management because I'm one person doing a whole lot of jobs. But I think when you're opening a business or you're running an event, like you need to see it modeled successfully before you do it. Because if you never seen it done correctly, how do you know what to do? So, I'm a spa girl. I love going to spas. So when I go to spas, I look at the aesthetics, I'm looking at their menus, I'm looking at the way that they greet their clients, I'm looking at the extras that they're offering. I always think about something small, like it's been so hot these past days, and as a new business owner, you want to try to cut corners and save as much money as you want. But then I'm like, but even if your clients come into a really hot place that's uncomfortable, and they're spending this money to be somewhere comfortable for the couple hours that they're here, so it's the feel, the smell, like little things like that. So definitely paying attention to the details of, for me, what would I want to experience if I was going into somebody else's place.
Hmm. I definitely hear you on that too, because I think there's a difference between failing forward and researching before you start, right? Like at the end of the day, you should just start, take action, do all that, but at the same time, prepare yourself by learning about whatever endeavor it is that you're getting ready to start. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, you also don't want to waste your time,
Right.
so if you do some research, that can definitely go a long way. Um,
Yeah.
but even in saying that though, like, do you have anything that I guess you either wish you would have done differently, or feel like you learned from doing something, let's say the incorrect way, but now moving forward, what to do in a better and I guess more improved way?
I know there has to be something. But I think nothing is standing out. Not to say I didn't make mistakes, but there's no real mistakes that I made that impacted me in a bad way where I was like, "Oh, let me cross this out and do this over." Um, and I think COVID actually gives me grace for that, because we all had many chaotic moments happening that prevented us all from being 100%. Like even in the beginning of me transitioning, I kind of left my old place that I was renting from and took clients at home for like 3 months. Oh, okay. So I mean, now that I say this, maybe this. Um, I started paying rent for the new place in December, but the contractors weren't done until March. So for a few months, I stayed at home and worked at home, and I was paying rent in a place that I wasn't at. So I think being smarter to negotiate terms a little better.
Mm.
But I also didn't know realistically, because contractors want to tell you it's going to be done in a month and a half, and really it's 6 months. So now that I know stuff like that, I know to negotiate a little bit better when it comes to those things. But I also think just people having, or the COVID era kind of gave people grace, because, I didn't really shut down due to it, but they kind of were like, hey, I can't come. And it kind of gave me a little more time to do the things that I needed to do, or rest a little bit more or whatever. So I don't think anybody was really having big expectations of um, me during that time.
Mm, mm.
And I think they were pleasantly surprised. Like when they finally did come to see the salon, they were like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be like this. And I was like, me neither. I just did what I wanted to do. And now, now it's here. So I think it kind of worked out in that way.
Mm. And again, another good point and segue. You mentioned the idea of it actually being here now, right? And when you kind of think about the beginning of your journey into where you're at now, you mentioned it being an 8-year process. You mentioned the idea of working for free at times. You mentioned the idea of obviously the pandemic affecting you and your business and everything like that. And also too, you empowering individuals by you now having an actual team, right? Because I think a
Mhm.
lot of things that people deal with is, all right, like you said, you only have two hands, right? You're only one
Right.
person. So at some point you realize you have to, think bigger. And so I say all of that, right, is because it leads me to the final question that I have for you. It's a question that I ask everyone that's ever been on Defining Legacy. And that question is, how do you want to be remembered?
I'm a person who aims to shed love and light. So I just want to be kind of remembered as that person who went after their personal goals and dreams, but by way of love and light. Like if it wasn't for those things, I wouldn't have been able to kind of get to where I want to be. Um, and they always say where there's light, there's darkness, right? But if you're able to use them both to elevate yourself, then that's kind of the testimony and the beauty of your journey. So I think my mission mainly is to show people like you can do whatever you want to do. You just have to believe in yourself and be consistent and put the work in to get there. But you have to follow what it is you want to do. Because I know people kind of saw what I was doing and then all of a sudden wanted to be nail tech. And it was like, whoa. You never, thought about it or touched a polish before, like why now? And I think it's more so like, the nuance of like she's in her element and it's just working for her. But I don't ever want to make people feel like they got to do what I'm doing. It's working for me because it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So whatever that is inside you, my goal is to be like, be confident in yourself, listen to yourself and go after that.
Yeah, I'm with that. This idea of like, follow your purpose and again, like your journey is your journey, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not really healthy, let alone good, but healthy to compare yourself to anyone, especially now with social media. That can be a challenge, but it's still somewhat required.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but if you could, right, just drop your social media, right? Like, where is it that people can find you? Drop the address, if you would like, just to give people more information and things like that. So feel free.
So you can find me at Honey Dipped Nail Designs on Instagram or Honey Nail Beauty Studio at Instagram as well. And let me see, I'm at 26 I Street in Hamden. Also 2989 Whitney Avenue. It's literally on the corner in the Mount Carmel Plaza. And I'm also on Facebook, Honey Dipped Nail Designs. So usually if you follow Honey Dipped Nail Designs, you'll be able to follow all my other pages as well.
Got you. And on the Define Legacy front, y'all, make sure you subscribe to Theus Elijah on YouTube. All right, Define Your Legacy on Instagram as well as Facebook, DYL Podcast on Twitter, and Theus Elijah on TikTok. All right, and last but not least, all right, subscribe to Define Legacy on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. I lied. There's one more thing as well. All episodes of Define Legacy, all right, drop every Thursday at 8:24 a.m. Eastern. All right. All episodes of Define Your Legacy drop every Thursday morning at 8:24 a.m. Eastern. Jasmin, we definitely thank you for being on the show. Do you have any final words for the audience? Anything you want to leave them with?
Honestly, just lead with love and light. Follow your dreams. Come check me out. I'll be having a grand opening coming soon. Had to be postponed, so stay tuned for that. I'll drop all details on social media.
For sure. And again, definitely appreciate you for coming on the show. And just like that, y'all, we gone. Peace.